The first time Luca Moretti looked at me like I belonged to him, I reminded him that wanting an answer did not give him the right to own it. Friday night at Bellini's had already stretched 11 minutes past closing when I stepped out of the employee restroom wearing the burgundy dress I had hidden in my locker all afternoon. My waitress uniform was folded inside my tote. My hair was down. My mother's retirement party had started nearly an hour earlier, and my brother Noah had promised to get me downtown before they brought out the cake. I checked my phone. 11:41 p.m. One message waited. Outside, I crossed the empty dining room, passing tables stripped of silverware and candles reduced to small pools of wax. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Through the glass, I saw Noah beneath the awning, hands in his coat pockets. Then a door opened behind me. The private dining room. I knew who it was before I turned. Luca Moretti stepped into the hallway with two men behind him. Charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. He had the kind of presence that made conversations lower without anyone being asked. 5 weeks around him had taught me that much. Luca started saying something to the man beside him, then saw me. He stopped. His eyes held mine for a second before moving over the dress, then toward the windows. Toward Noah. Something changed in his face. Not anger exactly. Something quieter. Sharper. Where do you think you were going in that dress? The room became so still I could hear rainwater sliding through the gutter outside. I turned completely toward him. Excuse me. One of the men behind Luca suddenly found the floor fascinating. Luca seemed to realize how his words had sounded, but pride got there before an apology could. It is almost midnight. That is how clocks work. His jaw tightened. Grace, did you just ask me that like my answer belongs to you? Silence. Luca could make powerful men wait for permission to speak. I had watched it happen, but I was not one of his men. I was a waitress who had been on her feet for 9 hours, whose mother was waiting downtown, and whose patience had officially clocked out. Because it does not, I said. His gaze shifted toward Noah again. Who is he? That is a different question. Will you answer it? Not while you are asking like this. Luca took a slow breath. I watched him fight the instinct I had learned to recognize. The instinct to decide first and explain later. I am concerned, he said. No. You are jealous. His eyes returned to mine. That landed. You think you know what I am feeling? I think you looked at my dress, looked at the man waiting outside, and forgot that I make my own decisions. The two men behind him quietly returned to the private room. Smart men. Luca and I stood alone beneath the amber lights. You are right, he said finally. I had expected resistance. That answer almost disarmed me. Almost. Good night, Luca. I reached for the door. Grace. I looked back. For 1 second, he seemed less like the man Manhattan whispered about, and more like someone standing at the edge of a mistake he did not know how to undo. Be safe, he said. Not stay. Not explain. Not let me drive you. Just be safe. I nodded and walked outside. Noah opened the passenger door and glanced through the restaurant window. Friend of yours? That depends on whether he keeps learning. As we pulled away from Bellini's, Luca remained beneath the warm light behind the glass. 5 weeks earlier, he had been nothing more than a customer at table 12. A powerful stranger ordering black coffee from a waitress who did not impress easily. I could not have known then that I would become the one person he could not command, or that the first lesson would begin with $500, for 100 of which I gave straight back. 5 weeks earlier, Luca Moretti was just the man at table 12 who made everyone else nervous. I noticed it before I knew his name. Mr. Bellini personally opened the door for him. A city councilman eating near the windows lowered his voice when Luca walked past. Even the bartender stood straighter. Luca did nothing dramatic. He simply entered wearing a charcoal overcoat, glanced once around the room, and somehow the room adjusted itself around him. I approached with my order pad. Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink? Coffee. Black. Of course. His eyes stayed on me for half a second longer than necessary. That is all. Unless you want me to invent a complicated coffee order for you. Something almost resembling amusement crossed his face. Black is fine. I turned toward the kitchen before he could decide whether I was joking. 20 minutes later, another customer gave me a reason to forget Luca entirely. Charles Whitaker had been complaining since he arrived. His table was too close to the window. His steak had taken too long. His wine was not cold enough. When I brought his check, he looked at it and said, "You charged me for the second bottle." "Because you ordered a second bottle, sir." I said I might want another. "You finished it." His wife stared at the tablecloth. Charles leaned back. Get your manager. I can do that, but the bottle will still be empty when he arrives. A quiet sound came from table 12. I glanced over. Luca was hiding a smile behind his coffee cup. Charles noticed too. His face reddened. Do you think this is funny? No, sir. I think it is a billing question, and I am answering it. Mr. Bellini appeared moments later, reviewed the receipt, and confirmed the charge. Charles paid without another argument. When I returned to table 12, Luca asked, You always speak to customers like that? Only the ones who ask me to pretend arithmetic is negotiable. You knew your manager would support you? No, then why risk it? I set down the coffee pot. Because being employed does not require me to agree with something that is not true. His expression changed. Not much. Just enough for me to notice. Interesting. That is an unusual review of my customer service. It was not a review. I walked away before he could explain. Near midnight, Luca left. When I collected the check, I stopped. The bill was $86. The tip was $500. I stared at the number, then toward the entrance. He had not made it outside yet. I grabbed $400 from the register with Mr. Bellini, watching in confusion, and hurried after him. Cold October air hit my face. Mr. Moretti. Luca turned beneath the awning. I held out the money. You made a mistake. He looked at the bills. No, your check was $86. I can read. Good. Then this will be easy. I offered the money again. I am keeping $100. That is already generous. Keep all of it. No, his eyebrows lifted slightly, as if that word did not reach him often. Why? Because I serve coffee and dinner. I did not perform emergency surgery. Consider it appreciation. I appreciate the appreciation. I placed the folded bills into his hand. But $400 goes back. Luca looked down at the money, then at me. You could use it. That irritated me. Most people could use $400. You are refusing it anyway. Yes. Pride. Boundaries. The word seemed to interest him. There is a difference. Pride says I need nothing from anyone. Boundaries say I decide what I am comfortable accepting. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Traffic whispered across wet pavement behind him. Finally, Lucas slipped the money into his coat. Grace Sullivan. I frowned. You read the receipt. I did. Then we have established that both of us can read. This time he actually smiled. Small. Brief. Real. Good night, Grace. Good night, Mr. Moretti. Luca. I opened the restaurant door. We will see. The following Tuesday, table 12 was reserved before my shift even started. I told myself that meant nothing. Then Luca walked through the door, looked directly at me, and ordered black coffee before I could ask. That was when I realized he had not returned because Bellini served exceptional coffee. He had returned because $400 had come back to him, and Luca Moretti was not accustomed to meeting people his money could not persuade. The following Tuesday, Luca returned to table 12, and by then I had learned that his silence could make people reveal more than questions ever did. He ordered black coffee before sitting down, exactly as I expected. You know, I said, setting the cup in front of him. Eventually you could surprise me. I thought returning was the surprise. Not when Mr. Bellini reserved your table 3 hours ago. Luca glanced toward the manager. He is efficient. He is terrified of disappointing you. That sounds dramatic. You have clearly never watched him polish the same wine glass for 6 minutes because you walked through the door. Luca almost smiled. The evening passed quietly until 9:30, when Mr. Bellini asked me to bring fresh coffee to the private dining room. Why me? Because Mr. Moretti asked for coffee. That explains what. Not why me. Mr. Bellini gave me the look managers reserve for employees who ask questions at inconvenient times. I carried the silver coffee pot down the narrow hallway. The private room door stood slightly open. I lifted my hand to knock, then heard Luca speaking. Bellini stays outside this. Another man answered, too quietly for me to understand. Luca replied, especially the employees. I should have stepped away immediately. Instead, I hesitated. 1 second, maybe 2. Long enough for the spoon beside the coffee cup to slide against the saucer. The tiny sound seemed impossibly loud. The conversation stopped. Luca appeared at the door. His expression was calm, but not the same calm he wore at table 12. Grace. I raised the coffee pot. Your extremely dangerous beverage has arrived. His eyes stayed on mine. How much did you hear? Enough to realize I should have made someone else bring the coffee. How much? Bellini stays outside something. Employees especially. That is it. He studied me for several seconds. You did not hear any names? No. Anything about a meeting? No. I lowered the pot. And before you ask another question, I do not want to know. Something in his shoulders eased. Good. That is not comforting. It was not intended to frighten you. Then you need better delivery. Lucas stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind him. Finish your shift normally tonight. I stared at him. Normally? Yes. You realize saying normally makes everything sound extremely abnormal. Grace. Luca. His jaw tightened slightly. Go home the way you usually do. You have known me for approximately 1 week. Why would you know how I usually go home? Silence. I folded my arms. That was the wrong response. Take the subway. Stay around other people. Better, but still suspicious. He exhaled. Please. That stopped me. I had heard Luca give instructions. I had watched people respond before he finished speaking. Please sounded almost unnatural coming from him. Fine, I said. But tomorrow you explain why. If there is anything you need to know, I will tell you. That is not the same promise. I returned to work. At 11:15, I changed into my coat and left Bellini's. The October air was cold enough to sting my cheeks. I walked east toward the subway, passing a pharmacy and 2 restaurants closing for the night. At the first intersection, I noticed a gray sport utility vehicle parked across the street. I barely registered it. At the second intersection, it rolled past me and stopped half a block ahead. Coincidence. New York was full of gray vehicles. I crossed the avenue. 3 minutes later, the same vehicle appeared again. My heartbeat changed. I slowed near a brightly lit hotel entrance. The vehicle slowed too. I took out my phone. Calling Luca was not an option because I did not have his number. Calling Mr. Bellini felt ridiculous. Then my screen lit up. Unknown number. 1 message. Go back to Bellini's. I stopped walking. Another message appeared almost immediately. Stay somewhere public until you get there. I looked toward the gray vehicle, then at the glowing screen in my hand. Luca had never asked for my number. I had certainly never given it to him. Whatever existed behind that private room door had followed me onto a Manhattan sidewalk, and somehow Luca Moretti already knew before I did. I went back to Bellini's because the gray sport utility vehicle scared me, but I walked through the door angry at Luca. Fear had made me careful. Anger made me stop accepting half answers. Mr. Bellini unlocked the entrance before I knocked twice. Grace? What happened? I held up my phone. Where is Luca? His expression shifted toward the private hallway. Still inside. Good. I crossed the empty dining room before he could stop me. Luca appeared near table 12, his coat folded over one arm. The moment he saw me, something in his face relaxed. You came back. Do not look relieved yet. I showed him the messages. How did you get my number? Luca glanced toward Mr. Bellini. I turned slowly. You gave it to him? Mr. Bellini looked uncomfortable. He said there might be a problem. There is definitely a problem now. Luca stepped closer, keeping several feet between us. Grace, the number was necessary. You do not decide what is necessary with my personal information. His jaw tightened. Fine. You are right. That answer surprised me enough to slow my anger, but not stop it. Now explain the vehicle. It is not mine. Cold moved through me. Then whose is it? I do not know yet. Wonderful. Somehow that is worse. Luca looked toward the front windows. Someone may believe you heard more than you did. I told you exactly what I heard. I believe you. Then why was someone following me? Because they do not know you. And you do? Silence. His eyes returned to mine. Enough to know you would have told me if you heard something important. I folded my arms. How did you know the vehicle was there? Luca hesitated. Wrong move. Luca, I asked someone to watch the street after you left. I stared at him. You had someone monitoring me? The street. Not you. That distinction is doing very little for me right now. It allowed me to warn you. And I am grateful you warned me. I am not grateful that you made decisions involving me without telling me. His expression hardened. You would prefer I did nothing? I would prefer you tell me the truth. The truth is that I did not know whether there was a risk. Then tell me that. I stepped closer. Tell me what you know. Tell me what you do not know. Give me options. Then let me choose. Lucas stared at me as if the last sentence had been spoken in a language nobody used around him. That is not how my world works. Then keep your world out of mine. The restaurant went silent around us. A refrigerator hummed behind the bar. Rainwater tapped softly against the awning. Luca looked away first. Someone outside tonight's meeting may have been trying to identify anyone who came near that room. You heard nothing useful, but they do not know that yet. I can make that clear. Without involving me further? That is my intention. And tonight, I would rather you not take the subway. That sounds like an order. His mouth tightened. It was. Try again. For several seconds, Luca Moretti, a man who seemed capable of making an entire room rearrange itself around his preferences, simply stood there. Then his shoulders lowered slightly. What do you want me to do? The question changed something. Not everything, but something. I want a cab from the front entrance. I choose it. I want nobody following me. If the situation changes, you tell me directly instead of deciding what I should know. Luca considered each condition. All right. And delete my number after I get home. Another pause. All right. 20 minutes later, a yellow cab stopped beneath Bellini's awning. I opened the door myself. Luca remained inside the restaurant instead of walking me to the curb. I had asked for space, and he was giving it, even though every line in his face told me he hated uncertainty. My phone buzzed before I closed the cab door. One message from Luca. Tell me when you are home. Then I will delete the number. I almost argued. Instead, I typed, deal. As the cab pulled into the Manhattan traffic, I looked back through the rain-streaked window. Luca stood behind the glass, motionless beneath the amber lights. That night, he did not learn how to protect me. He learned something much harder for a man like him. If my safety mattered to him, then my voice had to matter too. For 12 days after the gray sport utility vehicle disappeared from my life, Luca kept every promise I had forced him to make, and somehow that unsettled me more than another argument would have. No unfamiliar car waited outside my apartment. Nobody appeared near the subway station after my shifts. Luca returned to Bellini's twice, ordered black coffee, and never mentioned the private meeting unless I asked first. Whatever misunderstanding had placed me near the edge of his world had apparently been resolved. Then November arrived with the season's first light snow. By 10:30 on Wednesday night, white flakes were spinning beneath the streetlights, and Mr. Bellini sent most of the staff home early. I stayed to finish receipts. When I stepped into the dining room, Luca was sitting alone at table 12. The chair across from him was empty, as always. We closed 15 minutes ago, I said. I noticed. Most customers interpret that as encouragement to leave. My driver is delayed. So tonight you experience inconvenience like everyone else. His mouth curved slightly. I was hoping wealth had exempted me. I poured myself coffee and, after a moment, sat across from him. Luca looked at the chair as if my choosing it mattered. You always leave this seat empty, I said. His expression changed. You notice too much. Occupational hazard. He turned his coffee cup slowly. My sister used to sit there. I waited. Isabella left New York 7 years ago, he continued. We disagreed about someone she wanted to marry. I thought he was wrong for her. And she disagreed. Strongly. What did you do? Luca looked toward the snow beyond the windows. Everything I thought a brother should do. I offered her another apartment. A better job. I asked people I trusted to make sure she was safe. I tried to remove every reason she might need him. I stared at him. You tried to reorganize her entire life. At the time, I called it helping. What did she call it? A long silence followed. Control. The words sounded heavier coming from him. She moved to Seattle 2 months later. Do you speak? Birthdays. Christmas. Sometimes Sunday mornings. But she never came back. No snow gathered along the bottom of the windows. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. So you lost someone by trying too hard not to lose her. Luca became completely still. I almost regretted saying it. Almost. You make everything sound simple, he said. It is not simple. It is just clear from this side of the table. He looked at me. You think I did the same thing with you. You started to. His jaw tightened. There was an actual risk. I know. That is why I came back when you warned me. I leaned forward slightly. The problem was never that you cared whether I got home safely. The problem was believing caring gave you the right to decide everything. Luca looked toward the empty dining room. My father used to say uncertainty was another word for weakness. Your father sounds exhausting. Luca laughed once, quietly. He was. Maybe uncertainty is just what happens when other people are allowed to make their own choices. His eyes returned to mine. And if they choose badly, then you can tell them what you think. You can help if they ask. You can even hate their decision. I paused, but it still belongs to them. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Luca asked, Do you think Isabella would have stayed if I understood that? I do not know. That is not a very satisfying answer. It is the only honest one. Mr. Bellini called from the office that my cab had arrived. I stood and pulled on my coat. Luca did not offer his driver. He did not tell me the snow made my choice irresponsible. He only asked, "Did you choose the cab?" I did. Good. I reached the door, then glanced back. Luca remained at table 12, staring at the empty chair across from him. For the first time, I understood that his need for control was not proof that he feared nothing. It was proof that losing people frightened him more than he knew how to admit. And for the first time, I wondered whether the empty chair had been waiting for Isabella all those years, or whether Luca was finally learning why no one could be forced to fill it. 4 days after the first snow, Luca tried to help me without asking, and I finally understood that old habits could wear very polite clothes. I was in Bellini's break room before my Friday shift, staring at an email from Hudson Hospitality Institute. Tuition for the next semester was increasing by 12%. I had already reduced everything I could. Fewer cabs, fewer dinners out, coffee from my apartment instead of the place downstairs. None of it made the number on my screen smaller. Bad news. Mr. Bellini asked from the doorway. Expensive news. I locked my phone. I will figure it out. 3 days later, another email arrived. Hudson Hospitality Institute was inviting me to apply for a privately funded scholarship covering the entire semester. I should have been thrilled. Instead, one sentence bothered me. A hospitality industry sponsor had recommended that the school consider qualified working students from Bellini's. There was only one working student from Bellini's. Me. That evening, Luca arrived at 7:15. I placed his black coffee on table 12 and sat across from him without asking. You contacted my school. Luca looked at me over the cup. Good evening, Grace. Did you? He set the cup down. I spoke to someone who funds scholarships. So yes, I did not ask them to give you anything. You asked them to notice me. There is a difference. Not enough of one. His expression tightened. You qualify. Your grades are excellent. Your work record is strong. All I did was make sure an opportunity existed. An opportunity one never asked you to create. Grace, this is not money from me. That is not the point. Then explain the point. I pulled the scholarship email up on my phone and placed it between us. If I apply now, I will always wonder whether they chose me because I earned it or because Luca Moretti made one phone call. They would choose you on merit. Then let me reach the door on merit too. Silence settled between us. Luca leaned back. You would rather work extra shifts and worry about tuition than accept an introduction? If I ask you for an introduction someday, I will accept it gladly. But not this one. Not one arranged behind my back. His jaw tightened. You make help unnecessarily difficult. No, I make consent necessary. That stopped him. Around us, silverware touched plates, and conversations moved beneath the soft music. Luca lowered his voice. I was trying to make your life easier. I know. You say that like it makes this worse. It makes it complicated. I looked at him. You care. I believe that. But you keep giving people solutions because asking what they want gives them the chance to tell you no. Luca went completely still. I saw the words reach somewhere deeper than the scholarship. Somewhere near Isabella. Somewhere near that empty chair. Is that what you think I am afraid of? He asked. I think you are very comfortable hearing yes. Most people are. Most people do not have your ability to arrange the answer before the question is asked. His eyes dropped to the coffee. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he reached for his phone. I will call the sponsor tomorrow and remove my recommendation. Thank you. The scholarship will remain open to other applicants. Good. And if you find it independently next semester? Then I might apply. He nodded once. I started to stand. Grace. I looked back. Luca's expression had changed. The certainty was gone. For once, there was nothing arranged in advance. No car. No reservation. No solution disguised as generosity. Would you have dinner with me? I stared at him. You are asking? Apparently, that is the terrifying new system. I almost smiled. Whenever you choose. Where? Wherever you choose. You really are frightened. More than I would like to admit. I let him wait. Not to punish him. Because I wanted to feel the difference between being offered a choice and being handed a decision. Maybe. Luca blinked. Maybe. That is an available answer when you ask instead of decide. His mouth curved slowly. I am learning. I stood and picked up my tray. Then learn what comes next. Which is waiting. I walked back toward the service station without looking behind me. Luca did not call my name. He did not negotiate. He did not turn maybe into a problem that required solving. For the first time since I had met him, Luca Moretti had asked me for something his money, influence, and reputation could not guarantee. And for the first time, I think he understood why the answer mattered only if I was free to give it. 4 days after I told Luca maybe, he did something I had not expected from a man who seemed built to turn uncertainty into action. He waited. No flowers appeared at Bellini's. No reservation was made in my name. No message reached my phone through Mr. Bellini. Luca came in twice, sat at table 12, drank his black coffee, and treated my unfinished answer as if it belonged entirely to me. By Friday night, I had started noticing every time the front door opened, which annoyed me because I knew exactly who I was hoping to see. My mother's retirement party started at 11 downtown. I had promised I would arrive late rather than miss it completely, so I brought a burgundy dress to work and asked my brother Noah to pick me up after closing. At 11:35, I clocked out, changed in the employee restroom, folded my uniform into my tote, and let my hair down. My phone buzzed 6 minutes later. Noah had arrived. I stepped into the dining room at 11:41. The private room door opened behind me. Luca emerged with 2 men. He was speaking quietly until he saw me. Then he stopped. His eyes held mine before moving briefly to the dress. Through the front windows, Noah stood beneath the awning with his hands in his coat pockets. Luca saw him too. I watched the change happen. Small, immediate, human. Where do you think you were going in that dress? I turned completely toward him. Excuse me. His expression told me he already knew the question had come out wrong. Pride simply had not caught up with reason yet. It is almost midnight. I am familiar with the time. His gaze moved toward Noah again. Who is waiting for you? That is not the question you should be asking. Grace. No, Luca. This is not about my dress. Silence. The 2 men behind him exchanged one quick glance and quietly disappeared back into the private room. I almost respected their survival instincts. Luca lowered his voice. Then what is it about? You tell me. His jaw tightened. I waited. For days earlier, he had asked me to dinner and accepted maybe. Tonight another man was waiting outside, and suddenly the old Luca had returned. You are jealous, I said. His eyes met mine. For a moment, I expected denial. Instead, he took a slow breath. Yes. One word. No excuse. No attempt to disguise it as concern. The honesty surprised me, but it did not erase the problem. Does being jealous give you authority over me? No. Does caring about me? Another pause. No. Then remember that before you ask where I am going like I need permission. Luca looked toward the window. Who is he? This time his voice was different. A question instead of a demand. Noah Sullivan. My older brother. He is taking me to our mother's retirement party. Relief crossed Luca's face before he could hide it. Your brother. Yes, but do not look too pleased. His expression sharpened. Why? Because you were wrong before you knew who he was. That landed harder than revealing Noah's identity. Luca looked at me for several seconds. You are right. I know. You enjoy saying that. Only when you make it easy. Noah tapped lightly on the window and pointed at his watch. I slipped on my coat. Luca stepped aside without being asked. No offer of a driver. No request that I stay. No question about when I would return. I reached the door, then looked back. My answer is still maybe. Luca nodded. I know. You did not ruin your chances. One eyebrow lifted. That sounds almost encouraging. Do not get ambitious. A small smile appeared. Have a good evening, Grace. Good night, Luca. I walked outside and climbed into Noah's car. As we pulled away, I glanced through the rear window. Luca remained inside Bellini's beneath the amber lights, but he did not follow. He had been jealous. He had been wrong. And instead of turning either feeling into another decision for me, he had stepped aside and let me leave. That was the strange thing about power. Luca had spent years learning how to make people stay where he wanted them. That night, for the first time, he began learning why opening the door mattered more. The morning after my mother's retirement party, I woke up expecting Luca to do what powerful men usually did when embarrassed. Explain too much. Send something expensive. Turn an apology into another performance. He did none of those things. Saturday passed without a message. Sunday did too. By Monday evening, I was annoyed that his silence bothered me. By Tuesday, I was more annoyed that I kept checking table 12 whenever the front door opened. Finally, at 8:17 that night, I took my break behind Bellini's service station, stared at my phone, and typed 5 words. Dinner. Thursday. 7 o'clock. I deleted them, typed them again, then sent the message before dignity could become cowardice. His answer arrived 2 minutes later. Where would you like to go? I smiled despite myself. You choose. Thursday evening, Luca chose a small Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, the kind of place with red tablecloths, framed family photographs, and a handwritten dessert board near the kitchen. No private room. No security hovering nearby. No polished marble entrance designed to impress anyone. Luca was already seated when I arrived. You are early, I said. I was advised that waiting builds character. Whoever told you that sounds brilliant. She is occasionally unbearable. Dinner felt strangely normal. Luca told me his mother still called every Sunday morning and asked whether he was eating enough. I told him Noah had spent our mother's retirement party telling embarrassing stories from my childhood. When an elderly woman stopped beside our table and touched Luca's shoulder, he stood immediately. Your father always ordered the veal here, she told him. Luca smiled in a way I had never seen at Bellini's. Softer. Younger. After she walked away, I looked around the room again. You came here with your family. Every month, when Isabella and I were kids. That is why you chose it. He nodded. You said I could choose. I did. I wanted to show you somewhere that mattered instead of somewhere expensive. That answer stayed with me. After dinner, we walked several blocks beneath cold November air. At the subway entrance, a black sedan waited across the street. Luca glanced toward it. My driver can take you home. I raised one eyebrow. He stopped himself almost immediately. I did it again. You did. Let me try that differently. He faced me. Would you like my driver to take you home? No. I am taking the subway. Concern appeared in his eyes. It is late. I said nothing. Luca looked down the stairs, then back at me. I could almost see the argument forming behind his expression. The reasons. The alternatives. The solution he could arrange in seconds. Then he let all of them go. All right. 2 ordinary words. Somehow they mattered more than the $500 he had once left on a restaurant check. That looked painful, I said. You have no idea. You survived. Barely. I laughed. Good night, Luca. Good night, Grace. I descended the stairs without looking back. Nobody followed me. No sedan appeared outside my apartment. No message demanded to know where I was. When I reached home 40 minutes later, my phone showed one text. I hope you made it home safely. That was all. No question mark. No request for proof. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at those 7 words. Then I answered. I did. Thank you for dinner. His reply came a moment later. I would like to see you again, if you want that too. I read it twice. Weeks earlier, Luca would have arranged the evening and expected me to step into it. Now he was leaving an empty space where my answer belonged. I finally understood that learning to ask had never been the real test. Anyone could ask when they expected yes. Luca was learning something harder. He was learning to hear no without turning it into a problem to solve. And somewhere between that subway entrance and the quiet message waiting on my phone, my maybe stopped feeling like uncertainty and started feeling like a choice I was ready to make. 3 weeks after that first dinner, Luca gave me something more valuable than money, protection, or connections. He gave me the chance to discover whether his change was real when nobody was forcing him to prove it. I was finishing a Tuesday lunch shift at Bellini's when an email from Hudson Hospitality Institute appeared on my phone. I opened it beside the service station and forgot the coffee pot in my hand. A boutique hotel group in Manhattan was offering a paid hospitality management internship, and Hudson had nominated 12 students for interviews. I was one of them. 2 interviews later, I got the position. I read the acceptance email 3 times before calling my mother. Then Noah. Luca came to Bellini's that evening. I reached table 12 before he could order. I got the internship. His face changed instantly. The hotel program? You remembered. You talked about it for 20 minutes. It was 7. It felt important enough to be 20. I smiled, but there was one question I needed answered. Did you make a call? Luca understood immediately. No. Did anyone make one for you? No. Did you contact Hudson after our conversation about the scholarship? No, he did not sound offended. That mattered. I did not know you had been nominated until you told me just now, he added. Relief moved through me. Good. One eyebrow lifted. I am trying not to take your enthusiasm personally. Do not. I needed this to be mine. Luca nodded. Then it is. He lifted his coffee cup. You earned it, Grace. No offer to negotiate a better salary. No promise to introduce me to executives. No attempt to improve something that was already mine. Just pride, quiet and uncomplicated. 2 weeks later, I reduced my shifts at Bellini's. Lucas still came to table 12, but sometimes I was not there. Somehow, the city continued functioning. On my final regular Friday shift, I finished closing at 11. Lucas sat alone beneath the amber lights, his black coffee untouched. The chair across from him was empty. The same chair he had once told me belonged in his memory to Isabella. I walked over, pulled it out, and sat down. Luca looked at me. That is becoming a habit. Do not get sentimental. I would never dare. That might be the least believable thing you have said all month. His smile appeared slowly. I rested my hands on the table. Are you free next Friday? Luca went still. Are you asking me to dinner? Do not make this difficult. I am appreciating the moment. Appreciate faster. He laughed quietly. Yes, I am free. 8 o'clock. Where? I made the reservation. Luca placed one hand over his heart with exaggerated concern. You chose the restaurant. Try to survive. I have overcome significant adversity. Accepting my restaurant choice is not adversity. We stood and walked toward the entrance. My coat hung beside the door. Months earlier, Luca would have taken it down and held it open before I decided whether I wanted help. Tonight, he waited. I took the coat from the hook myself, then handed it to him. His eyes met mine. He understood. Luca held it while I slipped my arms into the sleeves. Such a small thing. No one else would have noticed. I noticed everything. Outside, Manhattan moved beneath cold lights, taxis passing over wet pavement. Luca opened the restaurant door and stepped aside. He did not ask whether his driver should take me home. He already knew I would ask if I wanted one. I stopped beneath the awning. Luca, yes. My answer is not maybe anymore. He looked at me for a long moment. I know. You sound very confident. You asked me to dinner. Fair point. He smiled, but he did not reach for me. He let the moment belong to both of us. That was when I understood what had changed. Luca had spent years believing power meant closing every door before someone could leave. I never taught him how to make me stay. I taught him something harder. Open the door. Step aside. Then see who chooses to come back.